Hey guys, West Coast Picks here, and today I'm just going to make a copy of this Peterson Hook 1. It's one of my favorite picks. I buy them in bulk. This is a bulk one with no handle. They're like $1 each from Peterson, but I go through them because I pick a lot, so I go through them. They bend. And I just placed an order for another 20. This is the last unused one I have. So I don't end up being short. I'm just going to make a couple. I always like to have some on me anyway. And I've done this so many times, I don't need to copy the design. I can pretty much do it by eye. I'm just showing you guys how you can do it easily. Just make a copy, line up your original there on your blank, and this is just a windshield wiper insert that I'm using. You can get it from old windshield wipers that you've replaced from your car, and if you don't have any, or you don't drive, or whatever reason you can't get that, go to a auto wrecker, any auto wrecker, and offer them $1 an old windshield wiper or something like that, and they'll most likely take it. Sometimes they just tell you to just go ahead and take it for free, right? Because that's a couple of bucks, right? So anyway, you can use street sweeper bristles. You can use pretty much anything. So anyway, the idea here now is to get rid of all of this black here and keep the inside. I don't know if you can see that. So the idea would be to remove everything that's black, leave obviously just the hook there. And I'll do this with a grinder. You can do it with a hand file, just a standard hand file or a round file. Get a set. But I have a bench grinder, so it makes it a lot quicker. I'm just going to cut this to size here. It's not rocket science or anything. You just that flew across the room. Anyway, guys, I'm just going to go grind that out, and I'll be right back. Alright, guys, I'm back. I've ground it out. Basic shape. Got rid of all the black lines. You can do this by eye if you're used to it. I'm used to it. I can do the by eye. See how close it is. It's rough, so I still got to do a lot more filing, but see, the shape is pretty damn close. Don't need that anymore. Like I said, it's not rocket science. Lots of different picks work. You basically just want the rough shape, right? This is a set of needle files I got from a place here in Canada called Princess Auto. I'm sure there's equivalent places in the States. You can use regular full-size files like these Nicholsons here, which are really nice files. I have a set of those too, but when you have a grinder and you do most of it on the grinder and you can get close, you only need little tiny hand files. After that, this set was like $6 or something. I've seen the equivalents in Home Depot for like $6 to $10. So it's not going to be hard to find a small needle file set like this. And I'm just going to go over it by hand and finish off all the edges, make sure everything's smooth and to shape and rounded. It's hard to get rounded edges on a grinder, so you go in here with your round file and basically make sure that you got the hook on there, which is hard to do on the grinder. You can get the rough shape on the grinder, but you never get the actual nice round radius hook in there. You can see them starting to get here. And the more you can do on the grinder, the less you have to do with the file by hand. So keep that in mind too. It's a fine line on the grinder. If you go too far, you'll screw up a pick. But I mean, wiper insert's pretty cheap or free if you can get it at the right place. So right place, right time. Tell your friends to save their windshield wipers when they change them for you. You can go to like oil change places where they change wipers all the time. Ask them to save them. You know, it might sound a little weird to them, and you might feel a little weird asking, but it's either that or you go buy the things brand new. And you know, I've seen wipers for like $7 for a wiper, right? Most wipers will have 2 of those inserts that I showed you. Most of them will have 2 of them in there. So you know, you'll get probably at least a 1.5 foot, or maybe even, depending on the size of the wiper, up to, you know, 2-3 feet of insert out of one blade. So it might be worth spending the $7-8 for a new wiper. So I'm getting pretty close here, as you can see. How close it's actually getting. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the file, guys. I'll be right back. Alright guys, done the hand filing for now, and see how very close I am. It's just a tiny bit thicker, but the shape is bang on. So now, now you can see how close that is. That's the Peterson on top, with the insert on the bottom. This camera is very shitty, but you can see how close they are. The only thing left to do now is grab some hand sanding implements here and go at it with some sandpaper. So little tricks like the handle for your file here. I carry strips of sandpaper everywhere, so get it from the dollar store, tear off pieces, it's not a big deal. Wrap a little bit around your tool handle there for getting these curves. It's a good way to sand the inner curves of your hooks and stuff. This dollar store sandpaper is literally garbage. You use it once and throw it away, but it's $1 for like a bunch of sheets. So I use it. That's the only reason I use it, is because it's cheap. I have more expensive stuff, but I don't know, maybe I'll use it. So another option is emery cloth. This is 320 grit. It doesn't move the metal very fast, which is kind of what I want. You can get different grits of this stuff, but basically all I'm doing is going in here and doing the finer work that I didn't want to do with the file. So, you know, the insides of the hook, the outside radius of the hook, and also to smooth all the edges of the filing. So when you file, it leaves a definite pattern on the metal and sharp edges and all that stuff. So you get in there and clean it up with some emery cloth. And I'm just going to do a bit more sanding, guys. Just remember, pay attention on the finer parts, the edges and the corners here. On the hook, if you're doing a Bogota, it'll be in the peaks and valleys. Just right on the insides and the outsides of all the cuts is where you got to pay special attention, because that's going to be the hardest part, to get all your tool marks out of there. I'll be back, guys. Alright guys, pretty much done all the shaping by hand with the sanding, and you can see they're pretty much an exact copy of each other. There's still a little bit of roughness on the one that I'm making, and that's because I still have to go in there and break all the edges with the sandpaper. So far I've only been sanding flat on all the profile and getting the profile right for the hook. That means all these corners are actually pretty sharp, and you don't want that. So just going to go in there and break them all with the sandpaper. You can do this with a file, a nice light file, but I like to do it with sandpaper because it gives you a finished edge. So I just use the same emery cloth. You go in there and soften all the edges on this thing. And keep in mind when you're working on these, sorry, keep it in frame here. When you're working on these, there's really only two areas you don't want to remove metal from, and that's the bottom of the pick and the top of the pick where you're working is, because your limitation on these wiper inserts is the actual thickness of the metal, like the width of the strip. So you don't want to take any off of the top or the bottom. You just want to take it out of the middle and the sides, and keep all the length you can on your hook or bow guitar, whatever you're making, because you're going to need it all, 100% of it. So let's give this thing a quick little polish in here, break all the edges. Not a polishing, but a sanding. Don't want any sharp edges on this thing. That's what hangs up and locks and stuff. You want to flow it out nice and smooth. So, it's a lot better. And basically, for the actual creation of this pick, not the handle, but the pick itself, we're almost done. All I ever do from here is give it a good sand and polish job. So this is a trick that you've probably seen many people do for sanding. You just get a book that you've read or don't read anymore or whatever, fold a piece of paper up in there, push down on it, and sand away. Sorry, my camera's mounted to the table, so when I do it, it shakes. But anyway, sand it up. And this really just stops you from stabbing your fingers with the pick, which I've done many times. Believe me, you want to do this. You don't want to do it by hand. And as you can see, it comes out pretty shiny and nice. And then from there, I take it to my buffer. You can hand buff it if you want, but I take it to my buffer and I just get some polishing compound in my buffer and I buff it all up nice and shiny. So I'll go do that and I'll be right back. Alright guys, back from the buffer, and here is our finished product without a handle. I don't know if you can see that, but that's pretty much a mirror finish on here. This webcam is not very good. I should be using my cell phone for this, but whatever. You can see, say, finished comparison to the Peterson, bulk Peterson. It comes coated with something, and it's a spring steel, so it's not as nice looking. It'll probably polish up as nice, but it doesn't look as nice right now. And so you can see the hooks are pretty much an exact copy, and this is wiper insert. I think it's pretty much always stainless, so it's stainless. It should last pretty good. It's not going to be spring steel or anything, but hey, you just made this in like 10 or 15 minutes. So now got to get a handle on here, and there's just a few options. So I'm just going to get some stuff together and I'll show you. Alright guys, so I got some stuff together here. I'm just going to show you what you can actually do for handles on the cheap, relatively cheap. I'll get a couple examples here. So One thing you can do is Plastidip, and everybody likes the looks and feel of Plastidip. It holds up really good, but it takes a long time to layer up enough Plastidip to make a decent handle. This is probably like 5 or 6 dips, and you should really wait at least half an hour in between dips. So this represents about 5 or 6 hours, an entire night of waiting around and dipping this thing every now and then letting it dry for probably at least 3 days before you put it into a pit case of any kind. So they look nice, they work nice. This has got a little bit of grit in the handle on the last layer there to give it some kind of texture. They look nice, they work nice, they last. You probably have to cut this thing off. So that's one option, but it takes a long time. Another option, which is semi-quick, is wood. You get a piece of wood, right size, drill a hole in it, right down in there, and fill it full of epoxy. Slide your insert in, fill it full of epoxy, let it dry. Put some wood shavings on the outside with the epoxy, so when you finish it, it kind of looks normal, like that, right? And yeah, it's another option. It can be done pretty quick. Epoxy dries in like 5 to 10 minutes. And then here's another wood option. This is actually done scales, like a knife. I took some figured wood. This is patterned maple, burled maple, and made a couple plates that were roughly the same size as a Peterson Book 1. That's what's in the middle of this thing. And then it was a little bit bigger. Sandwiched it on there, clamped it on with epoxy, and then finished it off with a file. And then all the rest of it's done handwork, rounded the edges and stuff, all hand sanded. So that's an option too. That takes not as long as the Plastidip, but that'll take definitely be working on that one all night. And then there is my favorite quick one, which can be done in a matter of minutes, which I'm going to do for you guys. This is just heat shrink and pipe cleaner. Let me show you how this works. You get your pick blank that you just made and some heat shrink, which you can get in any hardware store. Should have heat shrink of various sizes, and just cut yourself off a piece. Doesn't really matter how big. This piece is really only to give the pipe cleaner something to grip onto, and kind of make it nice. So the heat shrink, you just torch it on there. I like to pinch the ends, just kind of seals them. And then just take the pipe cleaner. And I like to measure these things up to a regular pick, just so I know where to end and start the pipe cleaner here. And it seems to be about right there. And I do it with a nice tight wrap. Now right tight to the metal, all the way around and down. Keep going. More consistent, I guess the better it will look when the heat shrink's finally on at the end. But doesn't really matter. I like this because it gives you a nice gripping pattern. It's not very flexible when you put the heat shrink on there. It doesn't give you any cushion or anything, so it doesn't take any feel away from the lock when you're picking it, which is key. You don't want to use a handle that takes the feel away. And there's the wire sticking out here. And that is covered in pipe cleaner, and then we'll take another piece, slightly bigger, of heat shrink. You can get this stuff in various colors. I like black. piece of that off. Slide it in there. Slide it in there, a little bit of overlap. We're probably going to end up cutting this to finish it anyway. So don't worry too much about how much you have overlapping on the edges. It's always better to leave some than none. And heat it up. When you're doing the finishing heat shrink, it's always a good idea for heat shrink, if you care about what it looks like, to move from the middle out to the edges. And all that does is make sure that there's no bubbles left in your heat shrink. Let's sort of keep that in frame. But as you can see, it's shrunk around that pipe cleaner, good and hard. There's almost no flex in there, which is what you want. And now I pay attention to the ends here. I'm just going to heat it up again. Sandwich it in there with my fingers. It's hot, so careful, don't dwell on it. Sandwich it nice and flat there with my fingers. And that will be cut off in a minute here. I'll do the same with the bottom. Remember, it's really hot. So you can use pliers if you've got sensitive fingers or whatever. Alright. And now, I can find my X-Acto knife. And then, just nice, straight, flat cuts. Don't get your finger. Cut down, and there we go. That's the top, the bottom. And I think you're beginning to see why the workbench is all marked up. It's also my cutting surface and working surface. So you circumcise them there, and then heat it up one more time just to soften the edges of the heat shrink. Because after you cut it, they're going to be kind of sharp. And there we go. That is one completed pick made from a wiper insert. It's a copy of a Peterson Hook 1. It is mirror finish, full size. And ready to start using. Alright guys, later.